Right.
And so when I was on my journey, because I tell you, the traffic is just amazing nowadays.
I hear
So
ya.
on my journey to West Covina, I had to find some stuff to keep me entertained. And I actually have an Amazon Prime account. So what happens with Amazon Prime, every month you get a credit to get an audiobook.
Oh.
So it doesn't cost me anything.
That's
so
great.
I'm like, okay, I have a credit. Let me see what I can do to keep myself entertained during this hour and a half drive. And so that's when I fell upon the E-Myth, and I had heard about it. I think I had read something in on a Forbes article years ago.
Yeah, I think it was released back 6 to 8 years ago.
Right, it was. The author, his name is Michael Gerber, and I guess it's about, actually he said, it's been longer than that, I believe. He started this about 40 years ago. He actually has a business kind of academy that they take business owners through, very similar to what we're talking about doing.
Very good.
And so over the years, he, I guess, is a legend in entrepreneurship, and they call him the #1 business guru out there. So an excellent book. Again, the book is called E-Myth, Revisited, and the author's name is Michael Gerber, like the baby food.
Right.
And so you guys all should go out and order that book, or go to Amazon.com
Check it out.
and check it out. So here's the myth that everyone that has a business is an entrepreneur. What do you think?
That's not true. That is not true at all.
So let me ask this question. How did you start your business?
Well, I started it's amazing. I was working for an organization and I got fired.
Okay.
And I knew that what I was doing at that organization, I was doing a great job. The clients loved me. And I'm going, if I'm doing this for those guys, I could do it for myself too and do a great job because these guys love me. So that's how I decided to go out and start my own thing. I was doing some consulting, management consulting for small businesses. So I said, hey, let me try this and see what happened. Plus, I wasn't very comfortable taking orders from a lot of employees. Wasn't very comfortable at all. Right, Felicia? So I said, you know what? Let me try this thing because I could be my own boss. I can make my own decisions. I can generate my own revenues. And let's see how it works. And that's how we got started.
That's how you got started?
Oh, yeah.
Well, interesting enough, that's how most businesses get started. Now, mine's, I guess, is a little bit different because I actually was exposed to entrepreneurship when I was real young.
Yeah.
I think I mentioned on the show a couple of times that my mom and I started a business sewing little girls' dresses.
Yeah.
And I had to be about 12 or 13 because my mother was kind of different type of person.
Yeah.
She came from a family of entrepreneurs.
Right.
My grandmother made quilts, and my grandfather had a grocery store, and he was a caterer.
Right.
And he also did he worked for some other people. He did have a job in addition to that, but they had 13 children, so they had to do what they had to do.
Got to take care of those kids.
Right, yeah, take care of the kids. So we kind of grew up in it, and my mom taught me how to sew when I was 7.
Oh,
and
wow.
so that just kind of went with it. So mine was a little different. I knew at some point when I went to school, I went to school to be own a nursery school. Originally, I was going to be a doctor, but that didn't quite work out when my parents divorced. And so I was like, okay, well, I'll do this. I'll go to school for that. So I kind of went to school for that. Yeah. But needless to say, but you still need to go to the corporate university. That's what I call it.
You got to do that. You got to learn certain things that, to help you with your foundation.
With your foundation.
Yeah.
So one of the things that Michael Gruber indicated was that feeling you got when I could do better.
Oh,
that was called he says he calls that the entrepreneur seizure.
Mm.
So
I
really,
had the entrepreneurial seizure.
You had an entrepreneurial seizure, and something triggers it.
Yes.
Generally, something triggers. So it's not it's what were you doing before, because whatever you were doing before probably put you in a position of being called a technician, which means that you were very good at what you did, and then all of a sudden you received a seizure one day, and you're like, why am I working for this idiot? I know more than they do, and everything is crazy, and they're asking you to do things that don't make any sense.
Exactly. And you're taking orders from people that you're much smarter than.
Right. You're taking.
you know that you can run the place, and these people have no clue, but they're the ones giving you directions.
Exactly. So then one day you say, you know what? It's either the boss came with some crazy demand, and or if that didn't happen, you got your paycheck.
Yeah.
And it wasn't going to meet you for the entire month.
Exactly.
You're going to have more month than you had paid. And or a customer got on your nerves, and it just slipped. And the next thing you knew, you're like, I'm having my own business. And you just pack up your little stuff and you leave.
That's what I'm talking about.
And that's what normally happens. So that means most of us started as technicians.
Yes.
And so whether you were a did hair or a barber or a construction worker or whatever it was, you started your business as a technician. Right. But does that make a business owner?
Oh, no. Not at all. Not at all. You still got to be able to adopt the key acumen that you need in order to run the business and understand the infrastructure of it.
Yes, you do.
Yes.
And so generally that's the part that you don't have. You have the passion.
Yes.
You have the vision.
All right.
But then when you try to put all those components together, and as we all know as entrepreneurs, we have to wear many, many hats. So you got to be really talented at wearing all of those hats. And that's what I found with my clients, that, and that's why I always have said they fall into business. So instead of being in business. So Michael's definition of an entrepreneur is that individual that can take something small and create an opportunity out of that smallness.
That is exactly what the definition is.
Right.
That's
exactly it. And they're either visionaries and they're dreamers, and they live in the future.
Right.
And they can just make anything out of anything.
And I would take it a step farther, Crystal. I would say, as an entrepreneur, the key definition of an entrepreneur in conjunction with what Michael said is you identify a pain in a marketplace and you come up with a solution to that pain. And that solution that you come up with to that pain should be solving that pain much better than the competition.
And better than the company that you were working for. Because remember, you left a company where you were doing exactly that, right? So
who now becomes your competitor?
Exactly. Or if you're lucky enough, depending on how you made that exit, what your exit strategy was, if you weren't a hothead and you're just like, okay, I'm out of here, sometimes that client, that particular employer can become your
strategic partner.
And I've had some friends that's how they that's how they got into business.
Yes.
It was just that time.
Yes.
It was the time for it to fall into place like that.
Right.
And I think when I was in corporate America, one, I knew I was not an employee going in.
Yeah.
But obviously I had to there was a lot there that I could learn to do what I do today.
Right.
And so the Lord made it possible because the people I work for, the people I work with, they were family. And it was really hard to leave the family. So I stayed there 4 years longer than I should have.
Wow.
And I was in the financial planning industry. And it was right after the first S&L crash.
Right.
And I should have left right after that and gone back into what I really was doing. Yeah. But I stayed because we had such a wonderful, we went camping and
great
skiing.
Relationship.
We just had it was hard to leave.
I know.
It was really hard to leave. And then one day, I got my seizure. It's like, oh, I'm out of here. But I was smart enough to have already started developing my clients.
Yeah.
And so when I moved out, I actually had a client base to start with.
That's great.
Yeah. So that's kind of how I started mine.
And that's kind of helpful, too, because when you start out, you want to have a client source that you can go to, that you can generate some revenues. You don't want to go out there and start marketing and start advertising and all of that without any kind of money coming in.
Exactly.
You want to have some kind of a source. So
you want to have a source. So the way they define, and so listeners out there, and I hope you're listening because this is really for you. Did you fall into your business, and did you fall into your business as a technician? Was that something that you actually planned and had all of the components to make that happen? So they talk about, Michael talks about the technician as the doer. They're the person who loves to tinker.
Make things happen.
They make everything. They make sure the back room is all the nuts and bolts are in place, and depending on the type of business you're in, everything is ordered, everything is right on, and they're always tinkering, and they don't want nobody in that space.
Oh yeah.
I mean, because remember, this is what they did for their job.
And that is true in many or most cases, because even when you go to the auto repair shop, the guy tinkering with your car, that's a technician.
That's a technician, right?
That's a guy who was trying to come up with all these solutions and trying to make things easier for you, and trying to come up with different ways of fixing it. So,
do you have any clients that are in the auto mechanic business?
Oh yeah.
So what kind of business owners are they?
Oh, well, a lot of them are good at their craft,
yes.
Very good at their craft. But when it comes to managing the business, no.
Right,
it's
exactly.
Not there.
It's just not there.
Yes.
And so there were many of us that were technicians
Yes.
and very good at what we did. But
Yes.
then when we got there, we didn't. And Felicia just said it.
Yeah.
I may not have all the business acumen, but
Yeah.
I know what I do, and I know I'm good at what I do.
Exactly.
So that's where that team, we talked
yeah.
about that in a couple of earlier shows,
Oh, yeah.
where that team is important to being in place. Hey Don, how are you?
Yeah.
Don, I have us on Facebook Live today.
Oh,
We're using
right.
some technicians.
Look at that.
So that's how I'm getting us some followers and some.
My co-host and technician and
Yeah, see, I wear a lot of hats.
she's got us on Facebook. That's great.
Yeah, so we got a little bit of something. We have our Facebook Live going on.
Excellent.
So the third person, so we have the entrepreneur, we
Yeah.
have the technician, and then our third person is the manager. Yeah, that's the pragmatic one.
That's the one. That's the one who connect all the dots,
Right.
oversee the operation, and make sure everything is in order.
Exactly, and they also plan. They do all the planning. They crave order.
Strategizing.
They have to have order.
Yeah.
But the only thing about them, they tend to live in the past. They don't. It's really hard for them to embrace new things and new people and new concepts and new strategies. So that's very hard.
Right.
So the ultimate in Michael was saying is to be able to take those three personalities and create those three personalities into one person. Well, let's see. When we worked for someone, we had a manager, we had the entrepreneur, and then we had the technician. So was there conflict?
Oh yeah.
Because that's why we left, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So we need to create that hybrid.
You need a hybrid.
A little of this, a little of that, a little of that. Put it all together.
Right. But there's something that you always talk about in a business is systems.
That's right.
And I think that's
systems.
the system. So
yes.
You can be all those people, but you have to have a system in order to pull it all together.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Because a system, really what it does, it pulls things together and it makes things work interchangeably. So you've got Section A working with Section B, Section C working with Section A and B, and then Section D working with all three of them. And no one of those systems is superior to the next.
No.
They're all interchangeably. They're working together.
Exactly. And so when you have that individual that's purely the entrepreneur, he is just trying to get away from his working for somebody, right? But it's a place he's going to work. Because a lot of people do that. You wonder why after they've been in business, and I say this a lot to quite a few of my clients, you've been in business for 10, 15 years or 20 years or 30 years, and you're still behind the counter.
Yeah, yeah.
You're still working the business. So you're still the technician.
Right. Plus, they really don't understand the true role of what that entrepreneur should be, and that's why they remain behind that.
Exactly. But I don't know. Does the business grow? Because I know with my clients, it usually stagnates.
It's usually going to stagnate if that entrepreneur feels like he or she should be behind the counter at all times, counting the money.
Yeah.
Now, it's good to be able to count the money, but you got to know how to do it strategically, but also assume your role as that entrepreneur, that leader for the organization.
Right.
You cannot be behind the counter counting money all the time.
No, you cannot. I think we had a caller
earlier
one of our first shows.
Oh,
the
yeah.
guy was somebody called and said, "Do you have to stay behind the counter and watch everybody and watch your money?"
You don't want to do that, because then the whole purpose of the entrepreneur is to be able to establish systems, put systems in place, so those things run autonomously, and then you are out in the field. You go out in the field. You're cutting deals with other strategic partners, other clients, that type of thing.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then but you need your backup.
Oh yeah.
So that's that manager.
Oh,
so
yeah.
that's that person like the bookkeeper.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
and,
yes.
and the sales manager and the office manager.
And that person should be able to run the front office and the back office efficiently.
Right, exactly. Yes. So we know that that's a big problem in most of our businesses, because
many of our entrepreneurs.
Yeah, many of our entrepreneurs are not having anyone help them maintain the books and helping them see how much money is coming in and helping them with various ideas and strategies to maintain the stability of the business.
Especially when they're classified as solo entrepreneur.
Right.
That means they're the only one in the business wearing all these hats. Like they're Jamaican. They got 15 jobs. So the janitor, the bookkeeper, the opener, the closer, the manager, the customer service rep, everything.
And nobody can do it better, right?
And nobody can do it better.
I can't leave.
Exactly.
Because if I do, oh my God, my business is going to fall apart.
It's going to fall apart.
It's going to fall apart.
Which is a wrong way of running a business. The key focus of an entrepreneur is to establish a system so that you don't have to be there at all time running the business. The business should be able to run autonomously. So you could be elsewhere, be on vacation, and there's money going into your bank account while you're there.
Right.
That's the whole purpose.
That's the whole point,
this.
right?
Yeah.
That's the whole idea. And it also talks about, so what he calls that, and I know you've talked about it in various stages. So he actually has it in 3 stages, and I think you've talked about in 4 stages.
Right.
So his is in the E-Myth Revisited, it talks about the infancy stage. And so that's just what we're talking about, the stage where that technician, he's not the true entrepreneur, he's got to do, or he or she has to do everything themselves. And at the end of the day, what happens is all the balls are up in the air. And the more business that they take on, the more people that are coming to their establishment, it becomes too much.
Yes.
And they're working from sun up to sun down. And some people feel that that's the best way to run a business is to be there 24/7.
Yes.
But it's not. It's not healthy, first of all. It's not a healthy place to be.
That's right.
So what's the second stage? You have a second stage, so let me see what his is.
So my second step would be after you have the business planning, which would be, like you say, the infancy
stage.
Then I have the general operations management, which would, in his case, I think it's developmental stage or the growth stage.
It's the growth stage.
Right. So he's got the growth stage there. So that's what the general operations management is. You got all your systems and you're growing. And so that's what that is.
And then he talks about that's when the business owner realizes they need help.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of where we kind of come in, right?
Yeah.
They're at that place.
Because they can't do it by themselves.
They can't do it by themselves.
They now realize I need help.
They need help.
So that they reach out for professional practitioners like you and I to help them out. And then that's where the professional assistance comes in, where you provide the bookkeeping, the payroll, accounting.
Right.
And then I provide the infrastructure, the development, the systems.
Exactly. So that's and he calls that the adolescent stage. So which is what we're talking about, because I think you said that to when we first came on to POTUS's show.
Yeah.
I think you said that when we were on the rollout show is that middle stage is like going to high school. You used it like freshman and then the sophomore year and then your junior year.
Definitely.
And you're ready to grow by the time you're in your third year on that stage. So that's and that's absolutely correct, because that's usually where I step in. I have come into businesses where the books are just wow, or they're right at that place where they need funding, or because in order to grow, because that's where you are, right? You're now moving from infancy. You've just opened up your business. You're in your second or third year, and without that additional capital, you're finding it a struggle in order to jump over that next ledge, in order that next step up to the next step. To say, okay, now I want to bring in a more mature clientele or more customer.
Before they can actually get to that stage, they know they need to get to that next stage. They don't know how. So by bringing in qualified resources like yourself, then you prepare them and get them to that level where now they're ready to take that step to the next level.
Right.
By putting all their systems in place, their documents, making sure that they're actually meeting certain guidelines.
Right, exactly. And everything is being renewed, all the licensing. They have their financial, their structure, their legal structure.
Their ratios are where they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
All of those types of things, because a lot of small businesses, they really don't know that prior to going to a lender or a bank looking for funding, they need to make sure that the ratios are in order. Right. Because the ratios are what they're being measured against.
Exactly.
So that's where you come in, Crystal, where you come in and you look at the books and you make sure that they're meeting those ratios, meeting or exceeding those ratios.
Right.
And then you tell them, hey, this is what you need to do. This is how you need to maintain it.
Exactly. And then at that point, they're also at that place where they're ready to bring on employees, or should be bringing on employees to assist. So we're going to step away for our break and come back in. But we'd love to have you guys call in to interact with this conversation, because I know there are a lot of business owners out there that we're talking to you. I know we're talking to you.
We're definitely talking to you, and you're there going, that's what I'm talking about. So give us a call at 323-293-3375. That's 323-293-3375. And this is the Business Zone with Crystal.
No, that's Gilbert. With Gilbert. And
with Gilbert.